How's it going, guys? So, yeah, I want to do a quick live stream as I just finished reading the book How to Steal Like an Artist. So I thought I'd quickly make a video about that before I get back to work. I thought I'd live stream it as again, I don't really have much time to edit. But let's jump into the book though. Yeah. So was the book good? It was kind of interesting, yeah. So basically, the first chapter is don't wait until you know who you are to get started, which is obviously good advice because I mean, in order to learn, you have to get started. You have to put out a lot of bad work before you're actually good at what you do. I mean, my YouTube channel, the first year's worth of videos there are videos from before I studied film and TV production. And all those videos are now currently set to private because they're embarrassing. So you have to be bad at what you do, basically, with anything, in order to then eventually get good at it. So yeah, that's quite obvious advice there. Write the book you want to read. So the author of this book is obviously an author. So he's basically looking at stealing like an artist from an author's point of view. But I still thought I would give it a chance anyway to see if there was anything interesting there. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, it kind of felt like it was written more by somebody who works in marketing than an actual artist, as it was generally just a lot of buzzwords, but from other authors that were used. A lot of quotes from people like Anthony Bourdain, Irvin Welsh, and other celebrities. Celebrities who aren't necessarily artists as well, which was quite interesting. But a lot of buzzwords and quotes that people would have said during interviews in order to seem more, what sort of looking for, insightful with regards to their creative processes and how their work's done and stuff. Which, yeah, it was a bit lame. There was nothing there that was particularly deep or anything. It was just basically quote after quote after quote non-stop thrown at you, which for me, it was just a bit dull. I was just kind of left thinking, my God, when will this end? Just constant quote after quote thrown at you as an individual. And then on top of that, like even the bits that weren't direct quotes of other people, I could tell that this person had read the same books as me, well, many of them, because there was really just a lot of buzzwords thrown in there and phrases from other authors that are basically they're kind of it's like these words that you would associate with these other specific authors, which to me was a bit weird. But then I guess for a book called How to Steal Like an Artist, you would expect it, I guess. But I didn't expect the whole book to just be like plagiarized work and stolen phrases and stuff. It wasn't great. So I guess what I'll do instead is I'll tell you my opinion on how to steal like an artist. So I think that's going to be way more useful. So I guess I'll go from a videographer's perspective. I do videography and photography, obviously. So okay, here's a good example. If you look at Casey Neistat, so 6 years ago, everybody was copying Casey Neistat, and people were talking about how that's such a terrible thing that everybody's copying him and nobody's unique and so on and so on. But these are people on YouTube that had no experience that were trying to learn. And if you're learning, because you learn what that person does, and then once you master what they do, you then go learn something else that you like, and then learn somebody else's kind of style that you like, and over and over and over again, and repeat the process until you have your own style based on all the different things that you've learned from the things that you think is cool, that you like, from people that you respect and stuff. That's generally how things happen. We all copy people and get our style that way. So yeah, stealing like an artist, yeah, copying people's work is obviously very useful to find your own style. It's basically part of the learning process. And then once you are very good, then you have your own style. That's how you know you're good and no longer learning, is once you've developed your own actual style. So yeah, stealing like an artist. It's something that has to be done. Was there anything interesting in this book really that I can think of? Okay, one thing he said that I thought was quite interesting was the Sistine Chapel, obviously created by Michelangelo. And I've seen there. I was lucky that my parents took me there when I was a kid, actually. And he said how basically Michelangelo had a lot of people that worked with him that created the Sistine Chapel. So when I was there, I was like, wow, one man did all that. That's amazing. It must have taken forever, right? And it was in all of it. When in reality, there was like a whole team of artists all painting it, and Michelangelo was in charge. And it was basically saying it's best to be in charge because history remembers the person that was in charge and everybody else, which is true. That's what happened. I mean, it's the same with directors, like if you direct a movie, you get the credit. I think we're all aware that it's best to be the person in charge whose name's out there, getting the credit for all the work from everybody else. But also, you have to bring people up with you, otherwise nobody will want to work with you. So there we go. There's that. I'm trying to think what else is there that might be vaguely interesting. Okay. So, mine in the book was pretty garbage. So, how do you be creative in the first place? That's quite interesting. Okay, so this is good, right? Before I was a videographer or a photographer, I was actually working as a manager in a performing arts center, and I was surrounded by artists constantly. Now, before that job, I was a restaurant manager. Before that, I worked for the Ministry of Defense. Now, when I worked for the MOD and when I was a restaurant manager, like at no point did I consider myself an artist at all. At no point did I think of myself as being even vaguely artistic. I just thought that some people were artistic and some weren't. And that's not actually true. So basically, I started getting into videography maybe 6 years ago. And then I started to learn through practice that basically creativity is about how much time that you put in. Now, this blew my mind because I have a friend who is a photographer, and I asked him how he got good at photography. I was like, how did you get so good, And basically their answer was what was it said? He said, my dad's a musician and my mom's an artist. So therefore I'm naturally creative. So therefore it's simple for me to be a photographer because I come from a creative family and a creative background. We were always doing creative things growing up and so on, right? And I was like, oh, really? And generally they were trying to put me off the idea of becoming a photographer, and which was ridiculous. But I never actually paid attention, and I became a photographer anyway. And I realized that basically it's nothing to do with being born creative. It's the same with anything in life. If you want to be good at something, you go after it. And generally, that is time served. The more hours you put in, the better your work gets. It's like when you're a kid and you're playing football with your friends. The friend who plays football the most is the best at football generally because they've done it more. They've practiced more. And they might tell you, "Oh, you're rubbish at football. I'm amazing," but they don't say, "I play it 5 times a week. You play it once a month." People like to pretend to be better than they are, and it's all time served. That's it. I think they say if you do something for 10,000 hours, you become a master at that after 10,000 hours. And generally, as you work towards that 10,000 hours, you see your work in anything get better and better and better just by working towards that goal. And that's all it is. It's basically, you just need a little spark. And I'd say working in a performing arts center as a manager hugely helped with my spark with regards to creativity. Because obviously I'm seeing artworks and chatting to artists and stuff all day for my job. And that created that kind of little spark that I needed to start thinking of ideas for creative projects and art projects that I would like to do as well. And I think it's quite sad that like most people don't actually realize that they themselves could be an artist. They themselves could be artistic. You just need that little spark by being around people that are creative in order to then spark the creativity in themselves. And then again, work towards that 10,000 hours. And yeah, anybody can be an artist or creative. It's pretty much that simple. Anyway, I don't really have much to say on this book. Unfortunately, it was fairly disappointing. Yeah, it reminds me of that time that I read Great Expectations. It wasn't all that I hoped for. Terrible dad joke. Anyway, hopefully the next book that I read will be far more entertaining and not sounding like it was just written by some guy that works in marketing that was just taking buzzwords and throwing them at you non-stop. Jesus, that was awful. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, something to remember that I wish I learned a long time ago that you teach this in school. that if you want to do something, it's all time served. Just keep putting in the hours over and over again, and you get better and better. I guess there is some exceptions actually. So, for example, sports. So, I have a friend who's played golf for years and years, and I remember maybe like 10 years ago, he took me for a game of golf, and I probably played golf like 4 or 5 times over my whole life at that point. And we were playing golf, and I was kicking their butt, and they weren't very happy because they played golf all the time, and I never did. And the only difference there was I was much bigger than them, so I had a power advantage. So when I swung, I would hit the ball further, which makes it easier to get a good score. And they were so unhappy that they refused to play golf with me again after that. I was quite keen to play more, but they were having none of it because obviously I had an advantage. So there is cases with physical things where you can have an advantage over others, but generally, like keep putting hours in, and then you just get better and better and better. And with regards to artistic things, yeah, obviously your size or gender makes no real difference. It's all about time served. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go now before I keep rambling. But yeah, I hope that was vaguely useful, and yeah, I'll jump back on soon.